But which school did you start in? The same one I went to?
Yeah.
Romness number 3?
Yeah.
Who was your first grade teacher?
Oh, Edison Anderson from Wimbledon, a lady.
Yeah.
She married Ulrich Anderson up there where Arnold Slatton lives. His Ulrich's folks lived up there. And he started courting the school teacher. They got married before school was over.
Uh-huh. When you started there, did they have the barn, the livery barn and stuff that they put the cattle, the horses in?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the father, you know, if you drove with a horse and buggy or a horse and a sleigh, your father would come and clean the barn every so often, you know.
Oh.
And then haul in, there was no such thing as bales. You'd
All new straw.
haul in, well, they'd see to it that they had hay, pretty nice hay for the horse that is tied in the barn. But
How many kids had horses, or how many kids came to school with horses that kept them over the day?
Couple families.
Did they combine families to come to school in the horse?
And they walked. Like they walked from the place north of where we lived, the Gunderson place, and then the Sletton place is where we lived. They all walked to school down there to that school.
Yeah.
Samuelson brothers, they were over further south. 4 boys. Well, they were spread out in age quite a bit. So about the time the oldest one was through school, the youngest one started. But they walked all the time. They walked down in through the woods.
Walking in the woods would be,
Yeah, and
wouldn't be too bad.
You'd get a trail made.
Yeah.
It was just like walking on the sidewalk.
Yeah. I can understand walking in the woods would be all right. Boy, walking out there on the flat, now that would be a miserable
That's what I had to do when I, from Acremont or now over to that school, I'd follow the bends around, you know, as much as I could. And then across the open terrain,
Yeah.
by spring, my trail was that high above the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd just be packed. Yeah, I can understand that. I'd want to stay down that river as long as possible in the woods.
The Hans Crampton's boys, Fritz Hoganson was down there where Fritz and Marion lived. Anderson, Mabel Anderson went to school there. That's the last one I can remember of the Andersons. And then of course Melvin and Henry and Irvin, they were the first ones from Hans's. Later on why Oliver and Raymond. And then their dad would rig up a sleigh for the winter time. They'd sit on their knees on that sleigh and go to school and unhook the horses, a horse, and put them in the barn. And then sometimes if they didn't get it hooked up just right, the single tree hit the horse in the heels.
Yep, the horse would get mad and go home.
Horse took off and run away.
They couldn't hang on to it.
Well, they got to be rough, you know.
Yeah.
They fell off the damn sleigh, and the horse horse and the sleigh would come home without nobody on it.
Yeah, if they knew it, I suppose they could go back and hunt them, but
And then Olaf, no, Selmer Force. Swen Force lost his wife. She would be a sister to Otto Knudsen. And there was one, two, I must have been about 5 of them. Coron Palmer stayed with her dad, and Esther stayed with Louis Hillstead, and Selmer stayed with Andersons, Julia and Mabel, and when the mother was still alive. And then Olaf stayed with Knudsens up there where Gustafsons lived. But hell, there's the Fredrickson that lived up there, just across the river from where the bridge is by Gustafson. And he'd haul his daughter to school. Olaf Gunnarsson hauled his kids to school every day.
who lived on the Reinhardt place before Reinhardt lived there?
That's where that Fredrickson lived.
Fredrickson? What, do you know what year Reinhardt moved in there?
No, I don't know. How do you, how do you compare with Oris in age?
Well, he's older than I am by probably 7 years or so. That's what
7 years?
I would imagine 7 or 8 years.
Well, he had 2 sisters that was older.
Yeah, Shirley and Fern.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Olaf hauled them. Just a front bob of a bobsled with a box on.
Yep.
There got to be a big, there got to be a, he got up and fed the horses and harnessed them and got them ready to take the kids to school. And when they come home, I had to finish cleaning the barn, and that's an all-day work.
Yeah, and the kids weren't big enough to take the horse on their own.
No, that's
Yeah.
right. Well, as girls, why, the girls didn't adapt themselves to driving a horse like a boy would.
It's kind of surprising. Of course, they only went to 8th grade there. See, they didn't get old
That's
enough
right.
to really get into it.
When they went farther, well, then they went into town.
Yep. But did Springs work change? Did you go to school all the time, or did you get held out for Springs work like some of the kids did?
No, I went to school all the time.
'Cause I know there was some that got held out
Yeah.
in the fall to get the fall work done, and in the spring they got pulled
but
out again.
They didn't do as much of it in that school as they did in many schools.
Mhm. I think some of the kids went till they were 16, 17, 18 years old because they didn't get enough school
They
time
get
in.
up to 2021. My dad went to school when he was 21 years old. They immigrated over to Patagonia.
And you had to learn English, huh?
Well, they learned that pretty damn fast. That was no problem.
There was a lot of them that,
You see, he didn't get, well, like Mrs. Jungle now. They didn't get to start, well, Hank too. They didn't get to start school until middle of November. And then about, about middle of February, why they're required to clean their grain and get ready for spring's work.
yeah. Did Grandpa Martin, he only had about 4th or 6th grade education,
Fourth grade.
but he
Fourth
just went to
grade,
school.
and then Mrs. Jungle had fourth grade. My mother, I can't remember. She didn't go to 8th grade. She probably went to 6th.
That was because they didn't complete any one year, or is that the idea?
Well, how could you, with just 2 years of school, 2 months of school in a year, how much could you cover?
Yeah.
When I first started school, it was 6 months in the year. Then it got to be 7. Probably, I went to school a long time, 7 months. Then it got to be 8 months.
That was 8 months when I went to school, when I
Yeah,
started.
well, that's all the farther it went, then, you see.
But now it's 9 and 10.
9 months is what country school like that would have.
Yeah, when I started, it was 8 months of school. And then we got off a week for Thanksgiving and a week for Easter and
Yeah,
2 weeks for
2
Christmas.
weeks for Christmas.
And then if it stormed, why we didn't go in. And so
Yeah.
there was a lot less school hours then than there is now.
How you learned, you learned as much by listening to other grades than you did by
Your own.
attending your own class.
Yeah. Because they're all in the same room.
Yeah. Depending if it was an interesting subject, you know, you'd listen and remember it.
Yeah.
Like agriculture, history, grammar.
Well, that's one thing that wasn't so interesting for me was grammar. But the stories in history and that, they were interesting to listen to.
It wasn't, grammar was something that I wasn't interested in either, but it was one of the main subjects.
Yeah.
Learn grammar real good while you could carry on, and, you know, you could live through life pretty good.
Yeah. You could communicate with writing and all that stuff. There's, you know, it's surprising even today how many people don't know how to write and can't read.
We got them now.
Unbelievable.
We got people that go through college and they can't write. So that, it hasn't changed a damn bit.
That's amazing to me that how many high school people get out of school
High school, hell, there's
and can't
any
read.
number of people that graduated from high school can't write your name
That's amazing to me.
right now.
Yeah, it seems impossible if it could happen,
Well,
but it does. It happens.
You see, if you ever get behind, and I know, was it Kerry, that they held them back 1 year. They thought it was terrible that they held him back, but that was good for the kid. He caught up on his subjects.
Yeah.
And that's hell, very much so with people that went at my time of first and second grade. They just didn't. To start, when I first started school, there wasn't those. You just looked at the word and you remembered it. There was, but then you see, when I was in second or third grade, they introduced phonics, so you sounded out your word.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never could read decent, but if I would have started out in phonics, I wouldn't have had no trouble.
Yeah, you could sound out the words.
Yeah.
They kind of fool you once in a while, but
Oh, some, but not all the time.
yeah, it's amazing to me. You'd think there wouldn't be anybody coming out of 6th grade that couldn't read to some degree, but there's some who can't read.